I think that the water sector is an amazing place to be right now because there is such need for innovation. We have some of the biggest challenges that you could potentially face. So I think the appetite for innovation now, people are seeing as a necessary and not a nice to have, which perhaps might have been perceived as being beforehand. We have a huge program at Northumbrian Water really trying to promote women in STEM. So this could be our current workforce trying to open up their opportunities for their careers to actually come into a STEM role, even if they haven't got a STEM background. That is still open to them.
There's sort of this prevailing narrative, which I've come to believe is probably not the case, that the utility sector innovates very slowly.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's really monolithic, and I think it's really being unfair to categorize an entire segment of the water world that we live in as not being innovative, not wanting to change.
I think that the not wanting to change and not want to be innovative has changed and is changing, and some companies are embracing it more than others. But I do think that the accusation of speed is fair. And I will tell you this, that the theme for our Innovation Festival this year is speed and scale, because I am super conscious that we do not move at the pace at which we could. And I think that if we want to achieve our goals, we do need to be faster.
Welcome to Distilled, brought to you by KTM. I'm your host, Will Sarni, CEO of Water Foundry and founder and general partner of Water Foundry Ventures. During each episode, we'll speak to global water leaders doing their part to solve wicked water problems. We'll talk about their origin, their current activities in the world of water, and what they see as the future for water. Our guest today is perfect in terms of really thinking about innovation and where things might go in the world of water. So, Head of Innovation at Northumbrian Water, Angela MacOscar. Angela, thanks for agreeing to appear on Distilled and the exploration of all things water and your origin story and so on. Really excited to have the conversation with you. So Angela, we always lead off with the origin story, and I've heard, I think, a good chunk of from where you came and how you got started in the world of water. But I want to sort of scroll back a bit and talk about how you got interested in science and obviously your commitment and your passion around STEM education for women and how that's translated into what you're doing now, but also your journey from Shell to P&G and onwards. So if you can sort of go back to the beginning and talk about that a little bit and sort of punch up the whole STEM conversation. I really valued that, learning about your background. So,
well, thank you for the invite. Great to be here and to be chatting with you. And I'm always really delighted to share my backstory in the hope that it might inspire others, because everybody's journey is unique and has and you need to be open to what comes your way. And I definitely think that I took every opportunity that came my way and seized it with both hands. So I guess, origin story for me, I grew up in the northwest of England in a little place called Chester, and I am a twin. So there are two of me. He is a boy though, and not a girl. And it's a wonderful thing to be a twin. But back in the day when we were in school, we were also in the same class. So we were quite competitive with one another. And I think that in some ways kind of made me believe that when 16 came and we'd done our O-levels, that actually I didn't want to stay on at school to do any more education. I kind of felt that I'd had all of the education that I needed and I'd done that bit, and I was really, really keen to go to work. Whereas my twin wanted to stay on in education. So our paths branched a little bit. And this was probably one of the best decisions that I definitely made, because I went and took an apprenticeship with Shell, the oil company, and I worked in their lubricants laboratory. And I absolutely loved the job because at school, I'd always been really interested in science, especially chemistry. I loved the transformational nature of experiments. So when things changed colors or things disappeared, stuff like that literally blew my mind. So I definitely knew that this was sort of like branch of career that I wanted to go to. So this job at Shell was perfect for me. And I worked with some of the most wonderful people that took me under their wing. And one of the first things they made me do was actually do more education, which for that I'm very grateful now. Because when you do more, you realize actually you don't know everything and never will. But that's a great thing. But they saw something in me. So I would have dearly loved to have stayed there for the rest of my career. I was so happy and loved what I was doing. But they said, Angela, why are you not going to university? So they actually helped me fill in my forms to go to university, took me to the open days and literally pushed me out of the door to go, which was then the second best thing that ever happened to me, because on going to Manchester University to do a BSc in chemistry, I really, really thrived in that environment in a way that I would never have predicted at 16. So absolutely loved university and actually really did get a taste for research. So then I decided that I would do a PhD as well. But I guess the journey to even going and doing that. So my dad is an engineer and my granddad was an engineer. So spent a lot of time in his shed. There was nothing that he couldn't mend or make out of a washing machine. He was absolutely incredible. But I remember telling him that I was going to do my PhD. And this is somebody, bear in mind, that actually loved me, said, well, you do know, Angela, that nobody will want to marry you. So I wouldn't say that I was probably in the most supportive of environments, back in the 1980s and 90s to go and pursue, higher education and indeed go and step into that world. So, but I did actually prove my grandfather wrong. Actually, somebody did want to marry me, luckily for me. So that story worked out nicely in the end. But I guess it just goes to show that the backdrop that women had then, and I'm hoping that it's different now, but I have to say that I don't think it's 100% different.
I'm glad you brought that up. I did not go through your journey, obviously, but as I look at the water sector and science, it still looks like me. I don't think it's really changed a whole lot other than some people paying attention to it and actually really trying to push and provide opportunities and encouragement and mentoring and so on. So maybe that's the biggest change.
I think change is coming. Change is coming.
So tell me why. I mean, what is there something different now? Is it that, certain segments of the water sector or water industry, however you want to define it, are sort of aging out and there is a need to really just think about diversity in a very different way and bring in some new people? And
I think that that talent that was in is now coming to the end of their career. So there is going to be a bit of a change of guard. And I think certainly in the UK water sector, it is that sort of, it is that backdrop at the moment that we have that is the white male who's kind of in those roles. However, in the role I am as head of innovation at Northumbrian Water, diversity is absolutely key to actually coming up with new solutions, new ideas, and really doing things differently. So therefore, by nature of what we're doing now, and all of the water companies are embracing this, seeing that innovation is the only way forward, you need that diversity. And if I see the events that I've been to for the water sector now over the last 5 years, that audience is changing. The people on the stages now are changing. So slowly but surely, change is coming. I also think that we are being much more intentional now. So this is a huge passion area for me. In that we want more women coming in, and we need to be intentional about making that happen. And indeed, we're now putting steps and mechanisms in place that will actually have the role models for the future, going out to schools, working with universities, mentoring the women that we have in the organisation in a way that we have never done before, and that will bear fruit.
So tell me, how does that translate into what you do on a day-to-day basis? And, part of the conversation I'd like to have is, when people think about innovation, it's typically technology and not really thinking about different ways of working together, the diversity need that is so critical in the water sector. So specifically, what does that look like from a day-to-day basis in your role?
So from an innovation point of view, I'm responsible for innovation for the whole business. So this could be around what we do for our employees, what we do for our customers, and the operational side. So by nature of what that needs to cover, it needs to make sure that it isn't just technology solutions, but it is other innovation that's allowed in. We also have a need for changes in business models, in policy and regulation. And again, all of those need a different set of skills to bring those to life. So it does require a huge diversity of skill set and past knowledge to be able to drive that change. So on a day-to-day basis, I could be handling, all sorts of different technologies, ideas, solutions, needs that come across my desk that need some different thinking. And that's where the diversity would come in.
Okay. That's great to hear.
And the Innovation Festival, I can't go through an interview without mentioning the Innovation Festival, because that is probably one of the most noticeable drivers of change that I've seen. So I've been with Northumbrian now 5 years, but I've actually done all 7 of their festivals. It'll be year 8 this year, because I did that as a contractor. And in that first year of the festival, I remember going to the bathroom and walking past a line of men who were having to queue up for the bathroom, and I could just skip into the toilet. And this was like being in an alternate universe for any woman. It was like role reverse. And I remember like skipping past in glee, thinking, what on earth? Well, then actually the thought dawned on me that actually this was a tragic situation, because clearly there were that few women and that many men that actually we didn't have, the balance right. So we've worked really, really hard over the subsequent years. And I'm now delighted when I look out from the stage and I look at the audience, and it is so diverse in all vectors of diversity. And this makes a difference to our output that has also got stronger. So for me, it's a huge testament of having that diverse environment, that democratized environment where everybody can bring their true self, their authentic self, and be comfortable to share ideas and to have discussions with people. And this then enables us to have much better outcome, which we can measure year on year.
So I'm glad you brought up the Innovation Festival. When I first heard it, I was, I want to say some level shocked. I mean, it was such an incredibly clever idea. And I could see it actually being a catalyst for new ideas and diversity being key in it. How, and we'll come back to that in a minute, but to students and women entrepreneurs, just how do you activate that diversity? I mean, there's got to be an element that's proactively driven, and just based on who you are and sort of where you fit in the water system. I'm quite sure people come to you, but what's the mix?
So I think that, as I said, I think you need to be purposeful and intentional when you are trying to drive change. So therefore, we've worked really hard on building up a network and actually specifically asking for females or other diversities to be on board the festival, to be visible, to be the speakers. So really trying to drive that change, because if you don't ask, or if you're not proactive with it, you will just get what you normally get. So we have really tried to look to see if we can change up that mix, and it has clearly worked. We'll also be very highly networked now. So we have a huge program at Northumbrian Water really trying to promote women in STEM. So this could be our current workforce trying to open up their opportunities for their careers to actually come into a STEM role, even if they haven't got a STEM background. That is still open to them. We also want to create new role models for the future so people can see that there is actually a place where they can go to. We'll mentor people and give people coaching, to be more confident and to perhaps get over some of the barriers that women are facing. We also have the great opportunity that I have a very, very outside role. So I go out a lot. So our network is big and I will always go and be drawn to those things that are different. So therefore, we're building up that network of people who then want to come and be part of the festival, and indeed part of our supply chain, part of our culture.
That's really interesting. How much time do you spend outside of the sort of usual water conferences? I mean, is that part of your strategy also, where you're engaging with, people that are involved in data science and know nothing about water or healthcare, whatever it may be, to get the word out and demonstrate that there are very promising careers in the world of water and in the utility sector in particular?
Yeah, so I kind of think that the water sector is kind of like quite a nice, friendly community that we all know each other pretty well. We know the supply chain. So when you go to an event, you're kind of not seeing a lot of newness really, because you kind of know that. Whereas what I want to do with myself and my team is then go to events that are held by other sectors, because that is the place where I'm going to learn something new, pick up some different networks, and also see some of the technology solutions that perhaps we haven't come into contact with in our sector yet. So I'll be looking at water, at healthcare, medicine, military, satellite, space. The people generally that have got much bigger R&D budgets than what we would have, and they're probably well ahead. Often it is then an affordability piece, but often the pace at which change is happening, and especially digital change, then it means that these things become much more achievable on the volumes that we would need it, like if you look at the adoption curve. So, and people are interested in coming to the water sector because, again, you're offering something new and different that perhaps they haven't considered.
That's really encouraging to hear. So how much has the utility sector, in terms of thinking about innovation and sort of taking out some of the challenges that, I'd say any organization.
For innovation, we have some of the biggest challenges that you could potentially face, and climate change is one of the biggest ones, because we are at the front row receiving end of what Mother Nature is giving us in terms of weather. So we are seeing a lot more of our challenges in this space, but that for me then is where our opportunities lie. So I think the appetite for innovation now, people are seeing as a necessary and not a nice to have, which perhaps might have been perceived as being beforehand. I think that that our regulator definitely sees this. So they have had in this last 3 years, we've had our innovation fund. So there was £200 million worth of funding there for innovation projects. This has definitely stepped up the ante in terms of appetite for innovation, and also in terms of novel and unique collaborations with sectors outside of our own. So again, I'm sure Ofwat have got all of the stats on this, but I think that on average, each of the bids has had something like 13 different partners, and many of these are from other sectors that are coming into our sector to help us find solutions for some of the huge challenges that we have. And this is a real enabler.
That's really encouraging to hear. I spend most of my time working with industrial clients and not utilities, and there's sort of this prevailing narrative, which I've come to believe is probably not the case, that the utility sector innovates very slowly. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's really monolithic, and I think it's really being unfair to categorize an entire segment of the water world that we live in as not being innovative, not wanting to change.
I think that the not wanting to change and not want to be innovative has changed and is changing. And some companies are embracing it more than others. But I do think that the accusation of speed is fair. And I will say, and I will tell you this, that the theme for our Innovation Festival this year is speed and scale, because I am super conscious that we do not move at the pace at which we could. And I think that if we want to achieve our goals, we do need to be faster. But I also totally appreciate that there are reasons why we are not slow. We cannot be risky, right? We are dealing with drinking water and sanitation, right? We get that wrong, that is a big no-no, right? So care does need to be taken. So we can't be reckless. However, I do think that we could speed up and we could scale up. So oftentimes, and this will be in any business, you will have a good innovation adopted in a certain place, but then that will not be scaled to a different place because some people have the not invented here kind of mindset. So there's a little bit of resistance. Some pockets of organizations are more up for changing than others. So I would say there's often a patchy distribution in terms of mindset across a business. And we have an opportunity to move faster.
I love how you broke this out into pieces as opposed to, just a sort of monolithic view of the utility sector. Yeah, they don't innovate. It's the focus on speed is really interesting. So how do you take the friction out of it to speed things up? Like, what's the lever?
Yeah. So this is definitely how we do innovation at Northumbrian Water. So within my team, we do not do the innovation. What we do is we enable the organization to innovate. And our role is to be the oil on the wheels, the removers of friction. And I always like to think, like, whenever I'm having a conversation about a conversation of possibility, I always say to people, leave at the door anything about money, gravity, friction, or any other things that prevent progress and what could potentially happen. Because if you do that, you free yourself up from, and you really think about what could we do? And then you layer back in the realities, but then everything still seems doable. And that is our role, is to batten down the hurdles, to help people get over brick walls, and to help solve the things that often grind things to a halt.
So I like the idea of just leaving all the biases at the door, and just opening up people's mind. So you're really an agent to change culture, if you will. And, technology is certainly part of it, but getting people to really think what's possible.
Yeah. So if I kind of take the metaphor from my origin story, so I worked in the lubricant lab to start off with, so definitely greasing the wheels. I also then did my PhD looking at the surface chemistry of catalytic converters, so definitely feel like I'm a catalyst and want to speed up reactions. And then the other thing that I think that I bring is an energy and a positivity. So my cup is definitely more than half full. And I think you have to have that, that outlook on life to be able to overcome hurdles, because innovation is really hard. And if you're just going to fall flat at the first thing that tries to stop you, you'll never do it. So we're kind of the coaches on the side, getting people up, dusting them up and sending them on their way again and being behind them to make sure, that they get to the finish line.
I love that. A friend of mine many years ago said, this is essentially living in the solution. So you're embedded into it and making things happen in a positive way. What else do you think needs to change? Not just in, the utility sector, but just in general in terms of how the layperson thinks about water and how to make it real and tangible and urgent. And I won't use the word crisis because I think people are tired of that.
Yeah.
So what can we do differently?
We definitely need to do things differently. And I think we need to have more of a partnership relationship with our customers. I think at the moment we were invisible So people didn't value what we did because people took it for granted that they turned on their taps or flushed their toilet and got the services. And it was only really visible when things were not working properly. And that kind of worked for a while. We are now not invisible in the UK at all, in that we are being slated by the media. But with that brings an opportunity for somebody like me, because it drives urgency of change. So I totally see that we need to drive this change. So we've got great things going on in that space that we do really need to do at speed in order to address that. And then hopefully, once again, gain the trust of our customers. But it is a partnership, because a lot of customer behavior could really help us, and it be a shared ownership of water. We're just really the custodians and the sort of like the supplier and the caretaker of it, whereas we need everybody to be in to protect the future of this thing by using less water and being more conscious, by not putting silly things down the toilet. I mean, oh my goodness. I mean, some of the stories that we have of things that have been pulled out of our sewers, I think finding a 6-foot python in there is probably one of my favorites. We don't even live in a country where there are pythons. So
that's pretty bizarre. Yeah.
Having this shared responsibility for what we actually do, in this space, I think is going to be really pivotal to our relationship moving forward. And I think that we need to be motoring ourselves towards that better space.
It sounds like it's now a two-way conversation between, your consumers, your customers, and your business. And that can only be a healthy thing, even though it might be uncomfortable. At least having that dialogue back and forth is productive. Really interesting. And
I guess some of this comes from my P&G background. So we were so customer focused, and it was all about I woke up every morning to bring delight to our customers, and that's kind of was the mantra of what you are. Whereas I come into a business like this and there is literally no delight. And in fact, I actually think that we all like being invisible. Whereas I can't help shake that actually there should be delight. I mean, what the service that we provide is nothing short of miraculous. We provide clean drinking water, to millions, billions of customers around the world, and do sanitation in a way, that actually blows, what happens in our wastewater plants now. It is incredible. It is an opportunity for the future. And this is something that we should be really proud of and really share more of with our customer, because in the future, we need to do this more and more. We need to find cleverer ways of doing things. We'll be providing for a lot more people in different circumstances. Yeah. So I would love it to be more of this partnership. And when they get the bill, I would love it to be that we are delighting them and, educating them, inspiring with the brilliant things that we do.
So I've never, ever heard anyone use the word delight in the utility sector. So, take this as a compliment, but I'm quite sure you shock your colleagues when you use language like that, right?
Quite possibly.
Quite possibly, yeah.
But I would bet. I think this is one of the great things, though, about bringing in different people to our sector, to bring different thinking and to drive a change that is really required.
Yeah, I agree with you. It seems so desperately needed. No matter where you are in the world, just getting people to understand the challenges with respect to water. And I like how you also framed your point of view as being positive and optimistic, and a belief that things can change. We just have to change our culture and behavior and how we think about that and so on.
And be the driver of change. So whether you are, no matter where you sit in the water sector, whatever function or role you have an opportunity to drive change. And that is a very empowering thing. And this is something, that we really want to have in our culture here at Northumbrian Water. So innovative is one of our core values. And this is something where, like the likes of the festival, we have probably around a third of the workforce come along and be part of this, to be a part of change. And this is very empowering for people, because then they can see they can do something. They are in a position where they can be part of that. And that is a positive thing, a great thing to be part of.
And fun is a good thing. Fun is a motivator. Well, I hope I get out there at some point and participate.
You would love it.
Oh, I'm confident I would. All right. Well, I got to figure out how to get that scheduled. Angela, any closing thoughts? Like what would you like to see people do to take the friction out of innovation and scale diversity and think differently about who we can bring into the world of water?
I guess I kind of feel like that this is in everybody's hands, to be open, to be curious, and want to drive change and not just accept how things are. And if one door is shut, then try and find a different one. There is always a window, right? There is always a way. There isn't a no. There's just then a different way of framing it, a different way of doing it. And I guess it's empowering people to know that they have that power of change in their hands. And I would love to see more role models and more people coming forward to be part of this incredible sector that we have for the future. Because a lot of the jobs that will be available are not even real yet, and our industry will transform. And I guess I want people to see that it really is a career destination. And for a lot of people, like me included, we get here by accident. And I love it that in the future, it's the number one job that everybody wants to get, is the one in the water sector. Then we'll know we've won.
That is inspiring. I really do love the choices of words that you've used, like delight and now curious. How do you facilitate, promote, encourage curiosity? That's really, really powerful. Yeah. That could be the title of this episode.
It could be. But fun is also something that's really important. And I know this is like one of the core elements that we have at the festival. And it might seem pretty frivolous on the surface. We have bands, famous people, artists, and it is a totally different backdrop. But what happens on site is utterly incredible, in that people who wouldn't ordinarily talk to each other or mix together do very seamlessly in a way, that is so collaborative. And I'd always wish that I could just bottle that and take it back with me for the rest of the year, because I genuinely believe that the laughter and fun that people are having dislodge the ideas that are stuck in people's brains. The ideas are there, they just can't get out. Whereas that fun and that laughter just lets it out. It's like a valve that's released. And that's why we're able to have so many ideas and have, so much creativity exhibited in that week. I just wish that it was like that all year round.
I also think you're a recruiter now for Northumbrian Water, by the way. Like, who would not want to work for someone, an organization that was, fun? It sounds pretty compelling.
Yeah.
I'll send you my resume.
You're hired.
All right. Deal. Angela, a million thanks. I really value your insight on what needs to change and more importantly, how to change it. So thanks again.
Great to be part of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.